Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so you've given us a really interesting challenge this time, trying to understand why so many college students seem to be feeling, well, disconnected,
Yeah.
disengaged. We've got these articles talking about a silent epidemic, research pointing to a big mental health crisis, and even this really thought-provoking video that digs into loneliness itself.
Yeah, the biological roots, almost.
Exactly. So our mission here is to, sift through all this great material you sent, figure out what's really driving this, and maybe pinpoint some actual solutions.
It's definitely a critical issue, and the sources you've shared, they really do give us a wide view. We're talking about a lot of students feeling adrift.
Adrift, yeah, that's a good word for it.
Not just academically, but socially, emotionally too. And the stakes are high, right? Like some articles mention, it affects grades, dropout rates, just overall well-being. It's complex.
Absolutely. That silent epidemic article really drives home how multifaceted it is. It's not just one single cause.
No, it's a mix. Psychological stuff, academic issues, social factors, even the institutions themselves play a role.
Right. So maybe let's start with the psychological and emotional side.
Yeah.
Because it feels like mental health keeps coming up as like a really central piece.
Oh, undeniably. I mean, the numbers are pretty stark. One source referencing that Wiley State of the Student report from 2022 found nearly half of undergrads felt their emotional well-being got worse.
Oh, half. Wow.
Yeah, and that's not just, feeling stressed before an exam. It's serious anxiety, depression, burnout, even trauma. Things that directly impact focus and motivation.
It must be incredibly hard to learn under those conditions.
Think about trying to concentrate when you're just constantly anxious or feeling down. It's almost impossible.
And it seems so tied into that feeling of loneliness too, doesn't it? If you're
Yeah.
struggling mentally, reaching out feels even harder. That same silent epidemic article mentioned loneliness being really common on campuses,
Exactly. It's like this vicious cycle. Loneliness erodes your sense of belonging.
which makes you pull back even more.
Right. Which reduces engagement across the board. A real downward spiral. Okay, so shifting gears a bit. What about the academic environment itself? How does the way things are taught contribute?
Yeah, that seems huge. One thing that really stood out was relevance, or the lack of it.
The why bother.
Totally. If students can't connect the dots between, say, this history lecture and their actual life or future job, well, they check out mentally. And,
Both the silent epidemic piece and that Pernille Rip quote you found emphasize explaining the why. It's not just what you teach, but why it matters to them.
it sounds so basic, but maybe it gets missed a lot.
I think it does. It taps into basic motivation. If there's no perceived value, why invest the energy? And that connects directly to passive learning styles.
Right. The traditional lecture, just sitting there, taking notes, or trying to.
Yeah, it often leads to boredom, maybe just surface level understanding. It's not really engaging with the material.
That silent epidemic article contrasts it with active engagement. And didn't another source quote Inside Higher Ed saying something about nonstop lecturing leading to disconnect?
Yes, exactly. Nonstop lecturing and Socratic questioning invariably lead many students to disconnect. It's like information overload without real absorption.
Just washing over them.
And then there's the sheer pressure, the volume of information. Silent Epidemic talks about this feeling of disequilibrium, feeling overwhelmed.
So disengaging becomes a way to cope, like self-preservation.
Sort of, yeah. A way to manage feeling constantly underwater. And that stat, 53% struggling to retain material from the Wiley report, that really highlights the overload.
Over half. That's significant. And then there's autonomy, or the lack of it. Not enough choice, not enough feedback.
Right. If you feel like you have no say and you don't know how you're doing, where's the drive? It's like flying blind.
Motivation just tanks, I imagine.
Precisely. Limited choice, poor feedback. It leaves students feeling lost, maybe even undervalued. Okay, so let's broaden out again. Social factors, environmental stuff, the system itself. This is where belonging really comes in.
Yeah, that weak sense of belonging. Silent Epidemic links it directly to students withdrawing. And another text said disengagement often stems from just not feeling connected to other people.
It makes sense. College isn't just about classes, it's a whole social world.
A huge transition for many people.
And if that social fabric feels thin or like you're on the outside, well, it's isolating. Plus, we can't ignore the external pressures.
Like jobs, family, money worries.
Exactly. Silent Epidemic mentioned juggling work, family, finances, that leaves less bandwidth for school. And that Wiley stat again, 51% struggling with tuition costs, that's an enormous weight.
Hard to focus on philosophy when you're worried about rent.
Absolutely. And then the institutional side, rigid rules, impersonal processes, huge class sizes.
Making you feel like just a number.
Right. These systemic things can be real barriers, especially for students who might already feel marginalized. Which brings us nicely to that idea of belonging from unlocking student success.
Ah, yes. That piece framed belonging as absolutely critical, not just nice to have, but essential for success, well-being, satisfaction.
And it mentioned that Stanford research showing belonging interventions actually improved graduation rates, especially for underrepresented students. That's powerful.
It really is. It shows this isn't just fluffy stuff. It has real outcomes.
Definitely. And it's important to note academic belonging isn't just social fit, it's also intellectual belonging, feeling like your ideas matter, like you can engage with the material meaningfully.
Okay, so feeling seen both socially and intellectually.
Exactly. So why do students hold back in class, even if they're physically there? Unlocking the Silent Classroom looked at this.
Fear of judgment seemed like a big one. Worrying of sounding dumb, basically.
Yeah, that's huge. The fear of being wrong in front of everyone, it can be paralyzing.
Especially in certain classroom environments, I bet.
For sure. Big classes feel anonymous, maybe intimidating. Unengaging teaching doesn't invite participation. Unclear expectations add anxiety.
Makes it much easier just to stay quiet, blend in.
Right. And then layer on personal well-being again. If you're already stressed, anxious, maybe didn't do the reading, speaking up feels like climbing Mount Everest.
Another vulnerability you just don't want to expose.
Precisely. Lack of confidence, lack of preparation. It all chips away at the willingness to participate. Okay, now for a slight pivot. Let's talk biology. That Kruskasak video on loneliness.
Oh, that was fascinating. Framing loneliness not as like a feeling, but a biological signal, like hunger.
Exactly. A signal that a fundamental need, social connection, isn't being met. It's not optional, it's essential, like needing food or water.
That really reframes it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Our need to connect is hardwired.
Deeply hardwired. Evolution favored cooperation, social bonds. Our brains are built for connection.
And that idea of social pain, feeling actual pain from rejection, as an evolutionary warning sign.
Yeah, a built-in alarm to avoid isolation, which historically was dangerous. It explains why rejection hurts so much. It's not just in your head, it's a primal response.
Wow. And the video contrasted our evolutionary past, small, tight-knit groups, with modern life.
Yeah.
More mobility, maybe weaker ties.
Right. We move more, communities can be more transient. The video mentioned the decline in close friends in the U.S. as evidence of this shift.
So our social landscape changed faster than our biology, maybe.
That's a good way to put it. And the health effects of chronic loneliness are serious. The video compared its impact to smoking or obesity.
That definitely elevates it beyond just feeling sad. It's a health risk.
A major one. And maybe the scariest part is that vicious cycle it described.
Where being lonely makes you more sensitive to social threats.
Yes, hypervigilant. You start misinterpreting things negatively, maybe act defensively, which pushes people away.
Making the loneliness worse. A self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. It's a really tough cycle to break. So, okay. We've mapped out the problem pretty thoroughly. It's complex, it's layered.
Right. So what about solutions? How do we actually re-engage students, build those connections? The sources must have offered some pathways.
Oh, definitely. Lots of good ideas. A huge theme is shaking up the learning itself, moving to active experiential methods.
Like project-based learning, team stuff, case studies.
Exactly. Flipped classrooms too. Things where students are doing, not just listening. Silent Epidemic and other texts really pushed for this. Active learning makes it stick.
Makes sense. And making it relevant, connecting it back to their lives and goals. That came up earlier too.
Crucial. Explaining the why we talked about.
Right.
If they see the connection, they're more likely to invest.
So better teaching, basically. More engaging, more relevant.
That's a big part of it. But it goes beyond just pedagogy. Building a supportive ecosystem is key.
Meaning?
Prioritizing mental health, accessible services, destigmatizing, getting help, training faculty and staff to recognize struggling students. Multiple sources hit this hard.
Okay, so real institutional support for well-being.
Yes. And fostering actual community, encouraging faculty-student interaction outside of just lectures, peer connections, mentoring programs, creating inclusive spaces where everyone feels they belong.
That idea of psychological safety came up, right? Feeling safe to be yourself, to ask questions, even to fail sometimes.
Absolutely fundamental. Unlocking student success mentioned it. You need that safety to take risks, to connect genuinely.
And empowering students.
Giving them more autonomy.
Yeah, offering choices in assignments and how they learn, plus personalized outreach and, importantly, constructive feedback. Timely feedback,
Wow.
especially for students showing signs of disengaging.
So being proactive, not just reactive.
Precisely. And then there are specific inclusive teaching practices.
Like what?
Things like diversifying the curriculum, showing different perspectives, being really clear and transparent about course design and expectations, using mindful, inclusive language, inviting input.
Small things that can make a big difference in making everyone feel welcome. They really can. And simple things to foster connection directly, like purposeful icebreakers, not just awkward ones.
Yeah, good icebreakers.
What else? Team building activities. Structured things like 2 truths and a lie or jigsaw learning were mentioned. Regular check-ins, peer mentoring, creating structured opportunities for interaction.
So being intentional about creating social connections, not just hoping they happen.
Exactly. And addressing those psychological barriers head on. Normalizing challenges, fostering a growth mindset, focusing on learning, not just innate ability, and again, robust mental health support.
Makes sense. Anything else stand out?
Well, technology came up, using digital tools thoughtfully to help build community, especially online.
Okay, so tech as a tool for connection, not just content delivery.
Right, and promoting help-seeking, making it clear how to get help and reducing any stigma around asking for it. Oh, and gamification was an interesting one.
Gamification, like points and leaderboards.
Right. Sort of. Using game element scoring, maybe friendly competition, rewards to make learning more engaging for some students. If done well, it can tap into motivation.
Interesting. Okay, so wrapping this all up,
Yeah.
it really feels like student disengagement and disconnection aren't about one thing. It's this tangled web.
Definitely. Mental health struggles, learning, feeling irrelevant, teaching methods that don't engage, not feeling like you belong, fear of judgment.
Plus maybe these bigger societal shifts, making connection harder in general,
Absolutely. It's all interconnected.
which means the solutions have to be interconnected too, right? Not just one fix.
Exactly. It needs a multi-pronged approach. Institutions need to adapt, educators need to innovate, and students themselves play a role in building that better environment. It's a shared responsibility.
Right. Okay, so here's a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. We live in this world that's hyper-connected digitally, but people often feel more isolated than ever.
The paradox of our times.
So how can we, all of us, be more intentional about building real social bonds, fostering genuine belonging, not just on campus, but, everywhere in our lives? Think about some of the strategies we discussed: reaching out, active listening, creating inclusive spaces, normalizing vulnerability. How could those apply in your world?
Something to reflect on.
Definitely. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.